My name is Gustavo Victor Goler, and I'm an art conservator and a carver, a contemporary sculptor. I work specifically with religious artwork, mainly saints in particular. As far as the restoration and the conservation goes, I specialize in the older New Mexico santos and the history of the New Mexico saint maker. I represent one of probably 400 saint makers that are working here in New Mexico today, both male and female. This particular project was presented to me by a client that I have, an individual that's interested actually in the growth and the progression of the New Mexico saint maker, putting together a very sort of dynamic design that has a lot of movement in it, and also has a lot of iconography. This is the ascension of Christ, so he's represented with angels around him as he's being carried up to heaven, and at the foundation, at the base, we'll have the 12 apostles representing further iconography for that particular theme. But the whole idea is to get this sense of movement as this piece sort of rises, and that's where the complexity of the carving comes in and some of the structural aspects behind it. The very beginning of this piece would be, of course, picking the wood, and then making sure that you have the proper tools or a woodworker that's going to help laminate the wood, that is, to put it together, where the seams, where your joinery has to be immaculate. And that's the most crucial step in your initial step, in that if that is not right, you're going to have problems later on down the line. Once you have your wood laminated, we assume that I've already been working on all these sketches, and I've done to scale sketches. So once I have a to scale sketch, I can enlarge that, transfer it onto the piece of wood, and then from there we can start reducing the material. The actual process of carving is a reduction process. You're removing material. With a piece, again, this size, it's something that you really have to, sort of think about ahead of time, and I'm a little hesitant with something that's this complicated, so the removal process is somewhat slower. I use a variety of tools to do that, starting initially with the chainsaw, and then even a smaller chainsaw and other grinding tools to remove the initial material, but always still going back between hand tools and a mallet and just pounding away. And it's pieces that are this big are much more physical, so you use a sort of a larger variety of tools, not only larger chisels, but we have a wider variety of Dremels and other things to remove the material. Once it is carved and polished and sanded, you can imagine with a piece of size, you can add a tremendous amount of detail, and so all of that takes even more time and stuff. You just keep reducing and reducing. We go through a traditional process of gessoing the piece and sizing the piece. We'll mix some animal hide glue, and we'll mix some gesso and do certain layers. What that does is it primes the piece so that it can be painted. Once that is dried, we sand it again, and we start the painting procedure. The painting procedure, again, is also kind of something that's very time consuming, because the way that the application of color is that it takes 2 to 3 layers to create one color. So there's a lot of sort of layering, a lot of sort of glazes that go on top of the piece to finally get it done. Once the piece is finally painted, then we go into sort of some glazes, some antiquing processes prior to the final varnish. Usually takes 2 to 3 coats of varnish after that. try to use non-yellowing conservation varnish that has UV protectors and helps protect the piece down the line. And finish it off with a light wax. The piece is also supposed to hopefully influence other saint makers, other carvers, to push their limits a little bit further and really enhance the artistic quality of this art form.